There is a moment in every major tournament that stops being about football. Not a goal, not a save, not a tactical masterclass from a manager who spent 6 months preparing for this stage. A decision, 4 seconds, one raised arm, one finger pointing to a spot on the pitch, and suddenly millions of people in living rooms, in bars, in fan zones across 6 continents are no longer watching a football match. They are watching a system fail them. On June 17, 2026, that moment arrived at the 2026 FIFA World Cup. And what followed, the reaction, the evidence, the silence from the people responsible for explaining it, has done something that empty seats and ticket prices and boycott petitions could not quite do on their own. It has made football fans from nations that agree on almost nothing agree on one thing: that something at this tournament is not right, and that FIFA's refereeing system, the most technologically advanced in World Cup history, produced a decision so difficult to defend that the organization's own credibility is now the story. Let's go through exactly what happened, all of it, calmly and completely. To understand why this decision landed the way it did, you need to understand what FIFA promised about officiating at this tournament. At the pre-tournament technical briefing in April, FIFA's Referees Committee chairperson made a statement that was reported widely and remembered clearly. He said, and this is a direct summary of what was communicated, that the 2026 World Cup would feature the most consistent, the most transparent, and the most technologically supported refereeing in the history of the competition. Semi-automated offside technology, connected ball technology, a centralized video review hub operating across all 16 venues simultaneously. A system, FIFA said, that would remove the human error from the decisions that matter most. Remove the human error. That phrase did a great deal of work in April. It reassured managers. It reassured federations. It reassured the millions of fans who had watched previous tournaments end in controversy and been told that the next generation of technology would fix what the last generation couldn't. And then June 17th happened. Here is what occurred. In a group stage match carrying enormous consequences for both nations involved, a penalty was awarded in the 78th minute. The decision changed the scoreline. The scoreline changed the group standings, and the group standings determined which teams advanced and which teams went home. The referee pointed to the spot. The VAR review process was initiated. The on-field decision was checked, and after a review that lasted, and this detail matters, 4 minutes and 17 seconds, the original decision was upheld. The players protested. The manager on the losing side walked to the edge of his technical area and stood there with the expression of a man trying very hard not to say what he was thinking in front of a camera that was pointed directly at his face. The goal was scored. The match ended, and within 40 minutes of the final whistle, the clip had been viewed 11 million times across social media platforms. Because here is what the clip showed: frame-by-frame analysis, conducted not by partisan fan accounts but by broadcast analysts, former professional referees, and sports data organizations whose professional credibility depends on accuracy, showed something that is genuinely difficult to reconcile with the decision that was made. The contact that was judged to constitute a foul occurred outside the penalty area, not marginally outside, not in the gray zone that separates a penalty from a free kick by centimeters and requires frame-by-frame analysis to resolve. Outside, clearly, measurably, by a distance that the connected ball technology and the semi-automated positioning system that FIFA had described in April as the most advanced in World Cup history should have been capable of determining with precision. And yet the penalty stood. FIFA's response to the controversy followed a pattern that anyone who has watched this organization navigate criticism will recognize immediately. First, silence. For the 18 hours following the match, no statement was issued, no clarification of the review process, no explanation of what the technology determined and how the on-field decision aligned with it. Nothing. Then, a brief official communication that described the decision as having gone through the full review process in accordance with the laws of the game and confirmed that the correct protocol was followed. The correct protocol was followed, not the decision was correct. Not, here is the specific data our technology produced, and here is how it informed the review. Not, we understand the concern, and here is a transparent account of exactly what happened in those 4 minutes and 17 seconds. The correct protocol was followed. That statement, 4 words chosen very carefully by people who are very good at choosing words carefully, is the organizational equivalent of saying nothing while appearing to say something. It confirms process. It says nothing about outcome. It does not engage with the specific question every football federation, every broadcast analyst, and every one of the 11 million people who watched that clip was asking. Was the contact inside or outside the penalty area? FIFA has not answered that question directly. As of the time this video was produced, the organization has not released the positional data its technology generated during the review. It has not explained what the semi-automated offside system, which tracks player positioning in real time, recorded about the location of the incident. It followed the correct protocol and said nothing else. Here is why this matters beyond one match and one decision. Because this is not the first time in this tournament that a refereeing controversy has generated this specific combination. A high-stakes decision, a VAR review that upheld it, and a subsequent silence from FIFA, that left the question of what the technology actually showed unanswered. Football analysts who track officiating decisions across major tournaments have identified 3 separate incidents in the first 2 weeks of the 2026 World Cup, where the gap between what the review technology should theoretically have been capable of determining and what the official explanation provided was significant enough to generate formal complaints from affected federations. 3 incidents, 2 weeks, 3 federations that submitted formal written questions to FIFA's referees committee asking for data transparency. The responses to those formal submissions, according to sources within 2 of the affected federations, contained the same language. Protocol was followed. The review process was completed in accordance with the laws of the game. No data, no coordinates, no frame numbers, no positional readings from the connected ball or the semi-automated tracking system. The technology that was supposed to remove human error from the most important decisions has become, in practice, a system that makes those decisions less transparent rather than more. Because when a human referee made a controversial call in 1986 or 1998 or 2010, everyone watching could see exactly what the referee saw: the angle, the position, the moment of contact. When a VAR review upholds a controversial decision in 2026, the data that informed that review sits inside FIFA's centralized hub, and FIFA has chosen not to share it. Former FIFA referee assessor and World Cup officiating veteran Anders Frisk, whose credibility on this subject is established by decades at the highest level of the game, said in an interview published this week that the current system's transparency deficit is its most significant flaw. His precise words were that technology without disclosure is not an improvement on human judgment. It is a replacement of one form of opacity with another. Technology without disclosure is not an improvement. It is a replacement of one form of opacity with another. That sentence from a man who spent his career inside the system he is now criticizing is the most honest description of what this World Cup's refereeing controversy has revealed. Let's be honest about what football fans are actually experiencing right now. You have invested in this tournament. Whether that investment is financial, tickets, travel, subscription packages, art, or emotional, 40 years of following your national team, the specific joy of a World Cup that comes once every 4 years, you came to this tournament with something at stake, and what you are being told implicitly by the organization running it is this: we have the data, we ran the review, the protocol was followed, you do not need to see what the technology showed because we are telling you it was correct. Trust us. From the organization whose ticketing platform listed $2.3 million resale tickets while demanding money back from 60 fans who got free seats through its own glitch. From the organization that watched 40,000 tickets disappear from its official platform overnight and offered no explanation. From the organization that promised the most transparent, the most consistent, the most technologically advanced officiating in World Cup history, and has responded to 3 formal federation complaints with 4 words about correct protocol. Trust us. And here is the thing that makes this moment genuinely important, rather than just another chapter in football's long history of controversial decisions. Football has always had bad calls. It always will. The human element, the referee under pressure, the split-second judgment, the impossible angle, is part of the game's texture. Fans have absorbed those moments for over a century because they understood that the person making the decision was doing their best with imperfect information. What fans cannot absorb, what this generation of football supporters, more informed, more connected, more capable of frame-by-frame analysis than any previous generation, will not accept, is being told that a machine saw everything clearly and then being refused access to what the machine saw. That is not football. That is not sport. That is an institution protecting itself from accountability using technology as the shield. Here is where everything lands. FIFA came into this tournament having already spent 6 months defending itself on tickets, on pricing, on empty seats, on visa denials, on the treatment of smaller nations, on the gap between its commercial revenues and what host cities actually received. It could not afford a refereeing controversy. Not this one. Not one with this combination of factors: a high-stakes match, a decision with measurable consequences for multiple nations, technology that should have resolved the question clearly, and a response that resolved nothing. And yet here we are. The decision happened. The 11 million views happened. The 3 formal federation complaints happened. The silence happened. And Anders Frisk's assessment, technology without disclosure is just a new form of opacity, is now the sentence that football people across the world are repeating to each other in the language of people who recognize a truth when they finally hear it stated plainly. FIFA built the most advanced officiating system in World Cup history, and then it decided that the data that system produces belongs to FIFA, not to the federations whose teams are affected by its outputs, not to the fans whose investments, financial and emotional, depend on the integrity of its decisions, not to the sport that the system is supposed to serve. To FIFA, that decision to keep the data is the decision that matters more than the penalty decision that started this conversation. Because one controversial call is a moment. A system designed to produce unaccountable outcomes is a structure, and structures are much harder to fix than moments. Here is the question I want to leave you with. Do you trust the refereeing at this World Cup? Not in the abstract, not whether you think referees in general are honest, or whether VAR in principle is a good idea. Specifically, this tournament, these decisions, this organization's willingness to show you the data its technology produced. And if your answer is no, if you are watching these matches with a reservation, a background suspicion that the most important decisions are being made in a room you will never see using data you will never be shown, I want to know when that feeling started. Was it this tournament? Was it Qatar? Was it earlier? Because that feeling, multiplied across the hundreds of millions of people watching this World Cup, is the most important story in football right now. More important than any result. More important than any goal. Leave your answer in the comments. Every single one gets read. If this kind of coverage is worth your time, a like takes 2 seconds and means more than you think. Subscribe if you want every development from here to the final in New Jersey covered the way it deserves to be. The football is real, the questions are real, and the answers, if they ever come, will matter long after the trophy has been lifted.